Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today, we'll be exploring the fascinating topic of ethical behavior with a focus on virtue and vice. Our presentation is titled Virtue and Vice: Understanding Ethical Behavior, and we'll be diving into how concepts of character influence the everyday decisions we all make. I'm excited to take you through this journey of understanding ethics in a practical and meaningful way. Let's get started. Here, we're exploring the concepts of virtues and vices, which are central to understanding ethical behavior. On the left, you see an image of a statue of Zeno of Citium, who is a key figure in Stoic philosophy, a tradition that emphasizes living virtuously. Starting with virtues, these are positive character traits that help us thrive and act ethically. For instance, courage is a virtue that empowers people to confront difficulties with strength and resolve. On the other hand, vices are harmful traits that work against ethical behavior and personal well-being. Take greed, for example. It drives selfish actions that can damage relationships and society. The icons next to each item visually reinforce this contrast: a hand symbolizing virtuous action and a fist representing the destructive force of vice. Understanding this distinction is crucial as we look further into how these traits influence our lives. Here we explore three important philosophical perspectives on virtues. Starting with Aristotle, he viewed virtues as habits developed through reason and consistent practice, which help us achieve a balanced and well-rounded character. Moving on to Stoicism, this philosophy teaches that living virtuously means aligning ourselves with reason and nature, emphasizing qualities like self-control and resilience to face life's challenges. Finally, modern virtue ethics focuses on how our character traits are influenced by social context and moral psychology, guiding us to act ethically within our communities. Together, these perspectives provide a rich understanding of how virtues shape human behavior across different times and cultures. Here, we explore how virtue and vice play into shaping our personal character. It starts with habit formation. Those daily actions we repeat over time become stable habits, and these habits create consistent patterns in how we behave. Building on that, these actions develop into habits, and as these habits accumulate, they essentially shape our overall character. Lastly, social influence plays a key role. Our interactions with others help reinforce these habits, whether virtuous or not, and contribute significantly to the moral identity we build. The image of the couple brushing their teeth together reflects how everyday routines, often shared with others, are part of this ongoing process. Here we have some common examples of virtues that guide our behavior and relationships. First, honesty is about being truthful and transparent, which helps build trust within our communities and personal connections. Next, courage is the quality that allows us to face challenges head-on, making ethical decisions even when it's difficult or scary. Compassion encourages us to understand and show kindness to others, fostering meaningful connections and genuine care. Finally, temperance teaches self-control and moderation, helping us make balanced and thoughtful choices in various aspects of life. These virtues are fundamental to personal growth and positive interactions, as illustrated by the image of one figure giving support to another, symbolizing care and balance. Here, we're looking at some common vices that often impact our lives in negative ways. First, greed, which is an excessive desire for wealth. This can drive people to make harmful decisions and strain their relationships. Next is envy, where resentment towards others' success can lead to dissatisfaction and poor choices, preventing personal growth. Laziness is another key issue. Avoiding effort causes missed opportunities and ultimately reduces our overall well-being. Lastly, dishonesty or deceit, which seriously undermines trust and damages the social bonds that are essential for healthy interactions. The image of scattered coins here symbolizes how these vices, especially greed, relate to money and value, but they also extend beyond just financial matters. Understanding these helps us recognize their effects and strive for better behavior. Here we see how virtues and vices impact the likelihood of making ethical choices. The chart clearly shows that individuals with high virtue are much more likely to choose ethical options with a likelihood of 80%. In contrast, those who are neutral fall right in the middle at 50%, indicating a much more balanced or uncertain approach. Meanwhile, individuals with high vice have a significantly lower chance, just 25%, of opting for ethical decisions. This data highlights the strong influence that personal character traits have on decision-making processes, emphasizing the importance of cultivating virtues to encourage ethical behavior. Here we're focusing on applying virtues and vices to real-life scenarios through a simple but effective analysis method. First, we start by identifying which virtues and vices are present in the situation. This step helps us understand the moral dimensions involved. Next, we evaluate the possible actions by looking at them through the lens of those identified traits. Essentially, we ask ourselves how each choice reflects or challenges these virtues or vices. Finally, we consider the long-term impact of these actions on character development. This isn't just about a single decision, but how each action shapes us over time. This methodical approach ensures that our decisions align with the kind of person we aim to become. Although this might cause some initial anxiety among employees, it fosters honesty and respect. Over time, this approach builds stronger trust and credibility, which are crucial for a healthy organizational culture. On the other hand, the vice-driven choice involves concealing the truth. While this might avoid immediate panic, it risks a serious breach of trust and can severely damage morale when the truth inevitably comes to light. This highlights the potential long-term consequences of choosing to withhold information. Overall, this case vividly illustrates the complexities managers face when balancing ethical considerations during difficult situations. Here we see a pie chart illustrating the various motivations students have for cheating on exams. The largest segment, representing 30%, is driven by pressure, which can come from academic expectations, family, or even peer influence. Close behind, at 25%, is the opportunity factor. Students may cheat simply because the chance presents itself, reflecting a lack of deterrence or supervision. Another 25% cite perceived unfairness, feeling that the system or exam conditions aren't equitable, which can lead them to justify cheating. Finally, 20% cheat out of a fear of failure, showing how anxiety about not passing can push students to dishonest behavior. Understanding these motivations is crucial in addressing the ethical challenges students face and developing strategies to reduce cheating. When evaluating behavior through the virtue lens, the first step is to identify traits. This means recognizing the relevant virtues and vices that are expressed in a person's actions and overall character. Think of it as using a magnifying glass to closely observe what these actions reveal about the individual. Next, we weigh motives and consequences. It's important to carefully consider the underlying intentions behind behaviors, as well as the outcomes they produce. Just like a balanced scale, this helps us fairly assess not only what was done, but why it was done and its effects. Finally, we judge long-term effects by assessing how these actions influence a person's character over time. This perspective is crucial, as it acknowledges that character development is a continuous process shaped by repeated behaviors, much like keeping track with a clock to see how things evolve. Together, these steps provide a comprehensive framework for understanding and evaluating behavior from a virtue-based standpoint. When we look at how virtuous behavior impacts personal growth, there are several key areas to consider. First, consistent virtuous actions contribute significantly to psychological well-being. They help promote inner peace and mental balance, which enhances our overall psychological health. Moving beyond the individual, virtuous behavior also fosters social trust. This means that by acting ethically and kindly, we build stronger and more reliable relationships within our communities over time. Another important aspect is reputation and opportunity. A consistent history of ethical choices improves how others perceive us, opening doors to more personal and professional opportunities. Finally, sustained virtuous behavior helps develop a stronger, more coherent moral identity. As time passes, this solidifies who we are at our core, reflecting our values and principles more clearly. Together, these points highlight how living virtuously not only shapes who we are, but also enriches our lives in profound ways. Here, we focus on the serious consequences of vicious behavior. First, damaged relationships are a major impact. Harmful actions can break trust and cause people to become isolated from those around them. Next, lost opportunities arise because persistent negative habits often shut doors to new growth, both personally and professionally. Over time, this leads to self-degradation, where repeated negative behaviors wear down our self-esteem and personal integrity. Finally, small unethical acts can trigger cascading failures, snowballing into larger, systemic ethical breakdowns that affect many people. These points remind us that vicious behavior doesn't just harm the individual, but can have far-reaching effects on our relationships and communities. Here, we explore 4 practical strategies for developing virtue and building strong character. First, habit formation is key. By creating consistent routines, virtuous actions become automatic over time, making positive behavior a natural part of everyday life. Next, role modeling plays an important role. Learning by observing and emulating respected mentors helps us internalize admirable traits. Then, deliberate practice involves engaging in focused, repeated efforts to strengthen these virtuous skills, much like training any other ability. Finally, feedback loops provide valuable guidance. Regular feedback allows us to refine our behavior and continuously grow. Together, these strategies offer a balanced and effective approach to cultivating lasting virtue. Now, let's focus on reflecting on our own ethical choices. On the left, we have 2 important elements. First are the reflective questions, which encourage us to think deeply about our recent decisions and what they reveal about our character. Questions like, what recent decision reveals my character? And which trait helped or harmed that decision? Help us gain insight into our behavior. We also consider, what one small change will I try this week? To foster continuous improvement. Next, we have the self-assessment scale, which lets us evaluate how often we engage in virtuous actions, whether often, sometimes, or rarely. This helps us gauge where we stand and identify areas for growth. On the right, you can see the calming image of an open journal, teapot, and snacks, symbolizing a moment of thoughtful reflection. This reminds us that taking time to journal and self-assess is a valuable practice for ethical development. To wrap up, let's review some key takeaways on virtue, vice, and ethics. First, understanding the definitions and history is crucial. Virtues and vices are deeply rooted character traits explored in philosophy, and they shape how our decisions align with ethical principles. Moving on to application and evaluation, ethical behavior isn't automatic. It requires careful consideration of our choices and their impacts. By reflecting on these and using practical steps, we can improve our decision-making processes. Finally, personal growth and impact come from developing virtues. When we consistently practice virtuous behavior, it gradually changes our character, leading to more positive outcomes in our lives and for those around us. These ideas together help us navigate ethical challenges more thoughtfully. Now let's move into our discussion prompts. Think about a time when you acted from either virtue or vice. How did that choice impact you or those around you? Consider which strategy you might try to build character in yourself. What approach feels most effective? Lastly, reflect on the role institutions play. How might they encourage virtuous behavior in their communities? These questions are designed to deepen our understanding and encourage meaningful conversation about character development. As we conclude, I want to highlight some recommended reading to deepen your understanding. For a solid foundation, the foundational book on virtue ethics is essential. It lays the groundwork for all the key concepts we've discussed. To see how these ideas apply in today's world, a short modern article offers fresh perspectives on character development. And for those interested in hands-on learning, there's a practical workbook filled with exercises that help you practice applied ethics in real-life situations. Thank you for your attention, and I encourage you to explore these resources further to continue your journey.